This is America at its most powerful. Deep in Nevada's desert, it's Firepower Day, a chance for the US Air Force to show off its overwhelming ability to blow things up. Junior generals are invited, but the real target is the American public, here to seek assurance they can still be protected. For while their military has the hardware to win conventional Cold War-style battles, on September 11th that was no longer enough.
On 9/11, the contract with America was held by the Department of Defense, shredded, and is now in the process of being rewritten.
And just how that contract should be rewritten has sparked one of the greatest battles the US military has ever fought, a battle for its own future. In the Virginian countryside is the home of a man the White House has appointed to imagine America's future wars. A decorated Vietnam veteran, Admiral Arthur Sabrowski, has a daunting brief. Change the lumbering US Army into a fighting force flexible enough to win conventional battles, but also defeat unconventional new enemies. It's called transformation, and since 9/11, his mission has had a new urgency.
The objective is a sustained competitive advantage in a changing world.
So without transformation, is the Army heading towards obsolescence?
Without transformation, certainly, because national security and certainly the military enterprise is a fully two-sided game. The United States right now is the big kid on the block. Everyone else studies us. Everyone else designs against us. So to the extent that America stays the same, its military force is ultimately doomed.
Admiral Sabrowski enjoys the backing of the president, but there are influential forces arrayed against him. Decades of wars have bred a powerful defence industry that resists anything that may threaten the cash flow.
To fight the Cold War, the military spent billions and billions of dollars buying bigger and bigger weapons from private defence contractors. These defence contractors guaranteed continued political support by spreading the manufacture of these weapons across dozens of congressional districts. This lucrative coalition of military, industry and politicians is called the Iron Triangle, and it's the Iron Triangle which is today battling to stop the true transformation of the US military.
I wish that we had Denver today, that we could talk to today.
On Capitol Hill, Republican Senator James Inhofe is on his way to a critical gathering of the US Senate. Top of the agenda, to push through plans to spend $13 billion building a new gun. Indeed, the world's biggest gun. The weapon is a massive 40-ton self-propelled cannon called the Crusader. So large it takes America's biggest cargo plane to deliver just one to the battlefield.
A single howitzer can drop nearly 1.5 tons of steel on a target at the same time.
Like many defence contractors, the Crusader's maker has ensured political support by planning to build the gun in lots of congressional seats across the country.
Initially formed with 2 Army leads and 2 industry teammates, the team has grown to include nearly 45 industry and governmental subcontractors.
And it all comes carefully wrapped in patriotism.
Crusader gives our soldiers the intelligent weaponry that will help them win future wars and ensure a safer America for everyone. Crusader
to the man with his eye on the future, though, Crusader is a Cold War relic that should be cancelled. no matter how many jobs are lost.
This is not to say that the Crusader is not perhaps more efficient than the systems it would replace. But in the new strategic context, it is simply devalued. Every dollar that is spent on Crusader is a dollar that needs to be spent somewhere else. All right, and to the extent you spend more money, on that, you delay and make more difficult what has to come next.
What comes next is here. Deep in California's Mojave Desert, at a tightly controlled testing facility, is Sabrowski's secret weapon. A rare glimpse of the future that's already reality. Predator B is an unmanned robotic spy plane that's about as high-tech as it gets. It's also the linchpin of Sabrowski's plan to transform the military.
Predators have become a real irritant to the bad guys. They sit up there and they dwell. Nobody knows they're up there. Somebody moves, you can see them, you can follow them, you can identify them. Somebody can make a decision on what you want to do about it.
Up close, Predator gives the eerie impression it has a mind of its own. In reality, it's a remote-controlled killer. From 10,000 feet through clouds, this spy plane can make out a human face.
Flaps are set. Cruise mode. We're going to speed up to 125. Roger.
Using a camera in the aircraft's nose, Predator is flown by a pilot from this control room. Via satellite, he can even fly one of these drones from the other side of the world.
Chase, we're going to slow down to 80 knots.
The US Air Force can't get enough of them. It already has 80, and 2 have been circling over Afghanistan 24 hours a day since fighting started. Now, Predator's been given a deadly modification: Hellfire anti-tank missiles, seen here for the first time on an internal Air Force video.
When urgent or fleeting targets such as Scud missiles or columns of troops are located, they require immediate attention.
The Predator is central to what Admiral Sabrowski calls a network-centric battlefield, a new type of war machine that America hopes will maintain its military supremacy forever.
The issue is not weapons reach, the issue is sensor reach. We could put a weapon on Mars if we wanted to, but can you sense the target, the right target, at the right time to do that? The whole world knows that if we can see a target, we can kill it.
Yet, as 9/11 so tragically showed, America has a new enemy fighting by new rules. It was to bypass Sabrowski's sensors and deliberately avoid America's military supremacy that drove Al-Qaeda to fly planes into buildings.
Instead of targeting the military, which terrorists in the past have done, or guerrillas do, they have now targeted the civilian population. They've targeted our society and our civilian infrastructure. It makes it very clear that perhaps, maybe our own government and our own military can no longer protect us.
Gary G.I. Wilson is a retired Marine colonel who served in Somalia, the Gulf and undercover in Colombia. Based on his tough field experience, he predicted 23 years ago that there would be a 9/11. It would be the first shot in a new type of conflict, and he gave it a name: fourth-generation warfare.
The fourth-generation adversary looks at their enemy holistically. He'll go after the economy. He'll go after it politically. He'll go after it socially. And of course, he will, when necessary, he probably will attack the military. But when all these other targets are so soft and so vulnerable, why bother? So it's a different kind of environment that we're seeing developing. And large conventional forces, okay, are not well suited for that kind of adversary.
Wilson fought for years to have Washington's defence decision makers listen. Was he heard?
No.
Why not?
Well, first of all, it didn't contribute to the money flow. All right, be quite frank about it.
But in a chilling twist, it seems instead that Al-Qaeda studied Wilson's work and used it against America. In February, an Al-Qaeda internet site quoted from Wilson's 1989 paper when it confirmed that Osama bin Laden had adopted fourth-generation warfare as his military doctrine. Fourth-generation warfare, the expert said, is a new type of war, not limited to destroying military targets, but will include societies. The distinction between war and peace will vanish. The time has come for Islamic movements to internalise the rules of fourth-generation warfare. Wars will be small-scale against an enemy who, like a ghost, will appear and disappear.
What makes us dramatically different is that we've got an adversary, okay, that is focusing on ideas and people and has recognized that we have become addicted to technology, and they're taking advantage of it.
G.I. Wilson isn't the only one urging a military rethink.
You have no idea how surprised I am this thing sails as well as it does in wind like this.
When not sailing the Chesapeake Bay, Chuck Spinney works in the Office of the Secretary of Defence. For 20 years, he's been one of Washington's most respected strategic theorists. But he's also an outspoken maverick who warns the defence industry has too much power over Washington's politicians.
Absolutely, and that is the scary thing about this whole thing, is our system is really focused inward on its own internal dynamics when it should be focused outward on the changing nature in the world.
Okay, what role is it playing in stopping true transformation, the human-led transformation?
Well, it's basically preventing it. It's a giant block because they're essentially trying to protect the gravy train.
So what's the answer? Well, it could look something like this group of Marines training in urban warfare. Small, highly skilled units able to take out a hidden terror cell, possibly even in a friendly country. No one is saying America will not need conventional weapons or even a large standing army. But they're urging the military to learn the lessons of Vietnam and Somalia, end their addiction to high-tech and heavy weapons, and learn more about the enemy.
We've relied an awful lot on high-tech platforms. We've substituted technological solutions for operational solutions. And we need to look at focusing on human intelligence, a lot of this high-tech stuff that we're doing.
A multi-sensor command and control aircraft will be the hub of a command and...
It's a direct challenge to the type of transformation now embraced by the White House.
No one can act without information. No one. And to put a special forces platoon in a place and deprive them of information is folly. So this is exactly the point. To provide that information, actionable information, requires very sophisticated, highly technical, networked sensor structure. Okay? And that is the heart of our nation's technological focus.
All you have to do is listen to the people who are talking about network-centric warfare, and you'll never hear the word people. They're basically talking about some sort of machine. And machines don't fight war. People do, and they use their minds. Our adversaries are smart. They're going to figure out the limitations of these sensors and lever them against us.
In the bush around the Quantico Marine training camp, a platoon drills in how to take a bunker. Their audience is a group of new officer recruits.
Your squad's going to get up and in the most direct manner quickly move into a 360-degree defensive perimeter.
Yes, Sergeant. But to the Mavericks, this is instead where true transformation should start. New leaders given new ideas on how to fight a new enemy.
So again, no matter where they are...
And after years of being ignored, the Mavericks' ideas, it seems, are being heard.
Yes, Sergeant.
In September, President Bush launched a new national defence strategy. Using much of the Mavericks' language, it stresses the need for better intelligence on elusive, complex targets. But despite the rhetoric, the game in Washington is still all about money and power. Smarter soldiers don't win votes, more weapons do. Congress is yet to have its say on Bush's new doctrine. And if the fate of the old Cold War cannon, the Crusader, is anything to go by, transforming the military will be a tough fight.
There's been a lot of talk about the Crusader. Crusader is a system of the future. It's a system that will correct a problem, a deficiency we have right now.
For Inhofe and the reformers who oppose him, the critical moment has arrived. During this sitting, the Senate will decide whether or not to support the Crusader.
We in this chamber have to make a determination. Are we willing to send our troops into combat with inferior equipment? And I'd say that's unacceptable. So let's look at where we are today.
To some, it's an absurd outcome. Congress agrees to cancel the original Crusader, but to build a smaller gun with the same $13 billion going to the same number of jobs. For the senators, it's jobs back home. For the reformers, it's a sign of just how much Washington must change for the military to be truly transformed.
We can continue to acquisition things, okay, but the end result may be, okay, we may have all these things, okay, but we may end up so vulnerable and so threatened that we may not survive much as a nation.
As Iraq may show, there is still a need for a strong conventional force. But some feel America's ready use of military might to solve its problems will just create more enemies.
We can always bring in the B-52s and just start carpet bombing. But over time, what you're going to see is increasing strategic isolation. More people could essentially start saying, hey, we got to put a stop to these people, and we could find ourselves in a very unenviable position in the world.
It's an ironic outcome. At the very time America is the world's only superpower, the nature of conflict is changing. And if its military fails to change with it, then all the bombs in the world won't stop another 9/11 or win the fourth generation war.